there all. Welcome to Learn, Unlearn and Relearn, an online program in chemistry. I'm excited to have you in the class and look forward to your contributions in the learning process. I thank God for giving me this opportunity to do something for the cause of education. Let us try to apply the substitution addition criteria to this particular molecule where we have two ligands HA and HB. Now these two ligands are homomorphic ligands or enantiotopic. If substitution of the first one and the other by different test ligands give rise to enantiomers. Now you can see here when each of these HA and HB are substituted with bromine, we end up with two molecules, and the relationship between these two molecules they are enantiomers, and hence the ligands are enantiotopic ligands. Now one need to remember here another important point, that is this particular carbon is called a prochiral carbon. Okay, so what is a prochiral carbon? A carbon in which if we can replace one of the ligand, and on such replacement the carbon becomes chiral. So this is a prochiral carbon, and the ligands attached to a prochiral carbon are always enantiotopic. Let us take another example where we have this allene, and any replacement of these two hydrogens will result in the formation of a pair of enantiomers, and therefore they are enantiotopic ligands. Again, we have another example where we have two hydrogens over here, and if you replace these two hydrogen with deuterium, we end up with a pair of enantiomers which are non-superimposable mirror image of each other, and hence HA and HB are enantiotopic ligands. Another example where we have two hydrogens, and please remember all these places we are not talking about a prochiral center, but if we can replace these two hydrogens with deuterium, we end up with two molecules. They are non-superimposable mirror image of each other. So they are non-superimposable mirror image of each other. So they are enantiomers, and HA and HB are enantiotopic ligands. Now let us try to understand what is meant by an enantiotopic phase. I hope you can recall what is an homotopic phase. I would like to recall here what is an homotopic phase, as we discussed in the last class, in the earlier thing. Okay, just erasing this. Let us try to understand what is an enantiotopic phase. So two phases of a pi system or a double bond are enantiotopic if addition to either phase gives an enantiomeric product. Now I would like to recall here, in the earlier part of this discussion we understood what is an homotopic phase. Now when we take a homotopic phase, we understood that in a homotopy phase has these two ligands same. So in our homotopic phase molecule, okay, so we said these two phases are homotopic in nature, and please understand the difference. So in homotopic phase, in molecules having homotopic phases, the ligands are identical, whereas in molecules having enantiotopic phase, the ligands are not identical. So when we try to perform an addition reaction from either phase, it leads to the formation of a pair of enantiomers, and hence the two phases are enantiotopic in nature. Let us try to understand another situation where we have benzaldehyde. So addition reaction from either phase leads to the formation of enantiomers, and these two phases are enantiotopic in nature. So a phase is identified as enantiotopic if when we perform an addition reaction or a substitution reaction and we end up with a pair of enantiomers, then that particular phase is identified as an enantiotopic phase. As I discussed in the earlier part, molecules having stereoheterotopic ligands or enantiotopic ligands, they exhibit po-stereoisomerism or prochirality. Now, prochiral molecules are those which are achiral and can be converted into chiral molecule in a single step. Now, this can happen in both sp3 hybridized carbon, or it can happen by the replacement of a particular atom or ligand attached to an sp3, or it can happen by the result of addition reaction of an sp2 carbon. So both these situations are possible. Let us try to understand here. Here we have a carbon which is sp3 hybridized, and this particular carbon is said to be prochiral, and these two hydrogens are prochiral hydrogen because if we replace these two hydrogen with some other atom or ligand or group, this particular carbon becomes chiral. Okay, so this particular carbon becomes chiral. So, and we end up with a pair of enantiomer. Therefore, we consider or we call this carbon as prochiral carbon and the hydrogens as prochiral hydrogens. Prochirality can also result due to the addition reaction of an sp2 hybridized carbon. Here this carbonyl carbon is an sp2 hybridized carbon, and it is a prochiral carbon because when we perform the reduction reaction, this particular carbon is reduced, it gets it becomes an alcohol, and you get a pair of enantiomers, and therefore this particular carbon is a prochiral carbon. Now, what is the symmetry criteria for an enantiotopic ligand? Now, two homomorphic ligands are said to be enantiotopic if they are interchangeable through a plane of symmetry or center of inversion or an SN axis. Now, if we take this molecule and if we put a plane over this particular place, and if these two hydrogens are interchangeable across that plane, and then we say that these two hydrogens are enantiotopic ligands. Similarly, we can have an SN axis if a molecule has an XN axis, which is nothing but a rotation and reflection. I'm not going into the details of your symmetry and symmetry elements. So if this particular molecule has an XN axis across that particular atoms under consideration, then the atoms or groups are said to be enantiotopic. And if in a molecule or if the two ligands passes through, the axis passes through, or the line that touches these two ligands passes through an inversion center, then this molecule is said to have ligands which are enantiotopic in nature. Now, what are enantiotopic phases? Two phases are said to be enantiotopic if they are interchangeable through a plane of symmetry or center of inversion or SN axis. The same principle that we applied for identifying the enantiotopic ligands also apply for identifying enantiotopic phases. So when you rotate and when we have the same identical molecule and the two phases are said to be enantiotopic if they are interchangeable through a plane of symmetry or a center of inversion or an SN axis. So the structure is not same upon rotation and hence a mirror plane exists. We know that we use descriptors R and S and they are used mostly to describe the chirality of asymmetrically substituted carbon atoms. Now there are instances where the phases of achiral molecules need to be distinguished, and in this case the terms Re and Psi, I am introducing these two depictors or symbols or names. Re and Psi are employed derived from the same roots R, which is a Latin term of rectus, which means right, the sense of being correct, and S for left-handed, the Latin term is sinister, and which is improper. Let us understand how this works. Here we have a molecule, benzaldehyde molecule, and we have a top phase and a bottom phase, and let us see how we are going to identify which is Re and which is Psi phase. For this we are going to use a thumb rule. Okay, so let us see how we are going to use this thumb rule over here. Now consider the planar molecule benzaldehyde. The carbon of the carbonyl group as hydrogen and oxygen attached to it in a trigonal arrangement, and you also have another carbon with a phenyl ring. The phases of the molecules are said to be enantiotopic because any chiral nucleophile that is not hydrogen, phenyl or OH leads to two enantiomers. These three atoms are assigned their atomic numbers by Kahn-Ingold-Prolog convention, which we abbreviated as CIP. So we have to assign the numbers, and according to which hydrogen is assigned 1, oxygen is assigned 8, and carbon is assigned 6. If they are arranged in the descending order, that is 8, 6, 1 in a clockwise fashion, the phase is defined as Re. If the arrangement is in counterclockwise direction, that is anti-clockwise, the designation is Psi. So you can easily use your AND to make the assignment in a similar way that we apply our ANDs to RS notation. Put your thumb towards the phase in question. If you rotate about the axis of the thumb and the remaining fingers rotate in the direction 8, 6 and 1, then the phase is defined by the hand employed. Benzaldehyde is straightforward because all the three atoms have different atomic numbers. The same is the case of for this side. Now let us consider C2 in the phase of propene shown here in 1A. Its three attached atoms or ligands are C, C and H. Now, how does one distinguish between the two carbons? Using the CIP rule, so here we are going to use the CIP rule. The CC double bond is treated as a single bond with phantom carbon. I think you need to recall how do you convert the C double bond C in terms of CIP rule. So we will put it as C attached with C, and this C is attached with another C. So this is what we call it as a phantom carbon. So using the same principles, the CC double bond is treated as a single bond with phantom carbons attached to each of the carbon of the double bond in 1B. Each one of the ligand atoms of C2 are in red. Now this diagram distinguishes the two carbon atoms. Now you can see how it gets distinguished. In this case it is 6, 1 and 1, and in this case it is 1, 1 and 1. So diagram 1C distinguishes the two carbon atoms while the phantom carbon at C2 is dropped, since this carbon must be trigonal. Now C1 with 6111 as priority over C3 which is 6111, that is 111. The phase of propene in 1A is psi. So we move in an anti-clockwise direction. Clearly in C1, that is in 2A, cannot be classified as Re or psi on the basis of attached ligands. CHH. Therefore, dropping the phantom carbon on C1 in 2B accomplishes nothing. The priorities are still CHH by convention. Therefore, by convention, C1 is also assigned as C by virtue of the assignment at C2. So both the phases of propene is C as far as this structure is concerned. So this is how we differentiate the phases when we have any two of these ligands are same. Let us summarize. Between enantiotopic groups and phases, differentiation is possible either by enzyme or by NMR in chiral environment or chiral reagent or catalyst. So enantiotopic groups and phases, on performing substitution and addition criteria, they give rise to enantiomers, and they have a symmetry criteria where if we have a symmetry plane or an alternating axis of symmetry, then the molecule exhibits enantiotopicity, and based on certain reactions they can be differentiated. Let us move on to the diastereotopic ligands and phases. Again, here we perform the substitution addition criteria, and two homomorphic ligands are diastereotopic if the substitution of first one and the other by different test ligand give rise to diastereomers or stereoisomers that are not mirror image of each other, then the molecule is said to be diastereotopic in nature. Let us first try to understand this simple molecule. In propene, we have two hydrogens, and if they are replaced with chlorine atoms, we end up with cis and trans. So substitution of HA and HB by chlorine leads to the formation of a cis and trans product, which are diastereomers, and hence these two hydrogens are diastereotopic in nature. Let us take another example. Here again, the substitution of HA and HB leads to the formation of a cis and a trans product, which are diastereomers, and hence the two hydrogens are diastereotopic in nature. Geminal methylene protons adjacent to a stereocenter on substitution by test ligands result in the formation of diastereomers, and hence they are diastereotopic. As a thumb rule, one can understand that the hydrogens that are attached to the carbon adjacent to a stereocenter gives rise to diastereomers on replacement of these two hydrogens with ligands, and hence These hydrogens that are attached to the carbon adjacent to a chiral center are preferentially diastereotopic in nature. Again, in this particular example, we have a chiral center, we have an adjacent carbon, we have two hydrogen atoms, and if we are going to replace these two hydrogen atoms with chlorine, we are going to end up with two molecules, and the relationship is diastereotopic. And one can ask how this is diastereotopic, because there are two chiral centers, one with S configuration, the other one is R, and here it is R and R. And for this we can use this diagram, and we can identify the relationship between an SR and an RR. So the relationship between SR and RR is they are diastereomer in nature. You have to remember this diagram. It's a very simple diagram, so please remember this diagram. Another example where we have these two hydrogens. So we substituted with deuterium, and again here we end up with we already have a chiral center, so as a thumb rule, the hydrogen attached to the carbon adjacent to the chiral center, they are diastereotopic. We end up with two molecules, so they are diastereomers. It is RR and RS. So RR and RS, again RR and RS are diastereomers. Therefore these two hydrogens are diastereotopic in nature. And how to identify a diastereotopic phase? Two phases of a carbonyl group adjacent to a stereocenter on addition reaction leads to diastereomers and possesses diastereotopic phase. So we can very well easily identify. So any phase adjacent to a stereocenter is said to be diastereotopic in nature, because when we try to perform a substitution or an addition reaction over here, and it will end up with diastereomers. So we have a top phase and we have a bottom phase, and this particular chiral center is as an R configuration, and we try to perform addition reaction, a carbonyl addition using hydrogen cyanide. So the CN group gets added to the carbonyl carbon. So addition of HCN, two phase of carbonyl adjacent to stereocenter, it leads to the formation of diastereomers, and hence the two phases are diastereotopic in nature. Again, if you look into the evidences from NMR, if the hydrogen atoms in the molecule are diastereotopic, then they are chemically and magnetically not equivalent. Again, I have to recall a simple thumb rule here. Homotopic ligands cannot be differentiated using NMR spectra. Enantiotopic ligands, again, they cannot be differentiated using NMR spectra unless and otherwise they are in the presence of a chiral reagent or an enzyme or a chiral environment. Whereas diastereotopic ligands are non-equivalent nature of protons, and therefore it gets splits up into a multiplet. Therefore diastereotopic protons can be differentiated using NMR, and NMR is a wonderful tool to differentiate differentiate the diastereotopic protons, and we will solve a problem based on this in our next video. To summarize, between diastereotopic groups and phases, differentiation is possible either by enzyme or reagent or by NMR, and by applying substitution and addition criteria, they are diastereomers. That is, if you end up with diastereomers, then the protons are diastereomeric in nature. As far as the symmetry criteria is concerned, there are no symmetry criteria that are applicable, and by any specific reaction they can be differentiated. Let's take a few examples here. So we have two hydrogens over here, and if we are going to replace these two hydrogens by deuterium, we are going to end up with a cis and trans. They are diastereomers, so the two hydrogens are diastereotopic. Let's take another example here. Again, we are replacing this hydrogen with deuterium, and we replace this hydrogen with deuterium, and what do we end up? We end up with, yes, we end up with homomers, and hence these two hydrogens are homotopic in nature. Please remember, two hydrogens are said to be homotopic when after replacement you end up with same molecule. You're not going to have any non-superimposable mirror image. How about this molecule? Again, this molecule, I replace it. So again, I'm going to end up with same molecules, and hence the two hydrogens are homotopic. If you have guessed these two answers right, congratulations. Let us take another set of molecule. Okay, so we have a stereo center, we have a chiral center. I've given you the clue. So I'm going to replace this hydrogen with deuterium. I'm going to replace this hydrogen by deuterium. So can we guess what are we going to get over here? Okay. Yes. If you have identified these two hydrogens are enantiotopic, to my surprise, it's wrong. They are not enantiotopic because when you replace these two hydrogens and you're going to end up with the same molecule, and therefore these two hydrogens are homotopic in nature because they are going to have an axis of symmetry. Let us go to this molecule. So a clue is given over here. You have a rotation axis C2. Again, you end up, they are interchangeable by C2 rotation, and hence these two hydrogens are homotopic in nature. And if you have got these two answers right, many congrats. Let us go to another example, and I'm going to replace this hydrogen with deuterium and this hydrogen with deuterium, and what am I going to get here? Again, it leads to the formation of homomers, and hence these two hydrogens are homotopic because I'm going to end up with same molecule. How about these two molecules? How do you relate these two molecules with each other? Are they mirror image or are they same? Do they have a plane? Do they have an axis? And the answer is they are enantiomers, and hence these two hydrogens are enantiotopic in nature. If you got these two answers right, once again, congrats to you. Let us take another example where I have these two hydrogens, and what is the relationship between these two? Are they mirror or they same? Wow, they are enantiomers. They are non-superimposable mirror image of each other, and hence they are enantiotopic. And how about this molecule? So I'm going to replace this hydrogen with deuterium and this hydrogen with deuterium. I end up with these two molecules. And what is the relationship between these two molecules? Are they mirror image of each other? Yes. Now, substitution of these two hydrogen by deuterium leads to the formation of diastereomers, and hence these two hydrogens are diastereotopic. They are non-superimposable mirror image of each other. They are of course stereoisomer, but they are not mirror image of each other. This is a non-superimposable mirror image, but here they are not mirror image of each other, and therefore they are diastereotopic. It's amazing, right? So the topicity becomes a little bit amazing when you go into detail. Let us take this cyclohexane system where you have two hydrogen. I replace the hydrogens with deuterium, and can we guess? Yes, give it a try. I'm going to put the answer. Yes, 1, 2, 3, here we go. Yes, So these two hydrogens are diastereotopic because they give rise to a stereoisomer which are not which are not mirror image of each other. Now I'd like to give a credit to some of these slides were taken from slideshare.net, and let us summarize. In this module, you had learned to define topicity. You have learned to explain what is homotopic, enantiotopic, diastereotopic, ligands, and phases. You learned how to illustrate the substitution and addition criteria, and you also learned how to provide evidences, and you had learned to apply the principles of topicity in molecules. Hope you enjoyed this module on topicity. Let us meet with another module very soon. Thank you. God bless. Keep learning, stay learning, and happy learning.